Hi there, my name's Sandy, and if you found this video, then you're probably much like myself, and you've been out searching through different social media platforms in the hopes of finding either an individual or a group or a community that you feel like you can relate to. And I'll apologize in advance. I'm new to this YouTube video making thing, and I'm a little bit nervous, so if I stutter or stammer over some of my words, please forgive me. Anyways, a little bit about me, my story. I'm not new to widowhood. I've been widowed not once but twice. The first time I was widowed, I was 24 years old, and the second time I was 50 years old. I met and married my first husband, Don, when I was 18 years old. And it was a little bit of a challenge. He was significantly older than myself. He was 18 years older than me, so literally twice my age. Although he didn't look it, he was. And we had vastly different religious views. But I was young, and I was naive, and I found out I was pregnant. And so I did agree to marry him when I found that out. And we lived a pretty decent, peaceful life, although, like I said, it presented its challenges and cared about each other very much. 6 years into our marriage, though, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. We had been getting ready to go away for the weekend. Although he didn't celebrate holidays, he did like to take advantage of the time off from work, and so we were on our way to a nearby lake, and we were going to rent a cabin with some friends and spend the weekend playing in the snow. But he started having significant pain in his lower back, and his skin was starting to turn yellow. And so ran him into the doctor's office because his skin was turning yellow. And at first they thought it might be hepatitis. And so then they did a scan, and they thought it might be an ulcer. But what it indeed turned out to be was a tumor growing on his pancreas that was blocking off his bile ducts to his digestive system. So anyway, at that point, if you're familiar with pancreatic cancer, most of the time they don't find it until it's so far advanced. They can't really offer much for treatment, just palliative care. And because his was already so far advanced, he did end up passing away 6 months after his diagnosis. I was just 24 years old, and I had a 5-year-old son, and found myself starting over again. And yeah, that was a significant turning point in my life. I went back to work. I started working. I hadn't been working then almost the entire time that Don and I were married. It was not something he was comfortable with. And so I did return to work after he passed away. And it was at my job that I actually met my future mother-in-law, and became quite close with her. And she introduced me to Mitch, and 1.5 years after Don died, Mitch and I were married. And so that would be December of 1996 that Mitch and I got married. And this has been the significant part of my life that has affected me so greatly. Mitch was my true life partner. He was my best friend. He was a fantastic father to my son, and we had a daughter together. And we had a pretty amazing, blessed life together. Not perfect, but it was pretty amazing. August of 2018, so we'd been together about 22 years, 23 years at this point. He wasn't feeling really well. And we went to a music festival with some friends of ours, and he was feeling so lethargic and fatigued. And he shared with me a lump in his abdomen. And I thought it might be like a hernia or something like that, but I rushed him to the emergency room, and they did a CAT scan. and they felt that he probably had lymphoma. So they ordered a biopsy, and so Mitch did have a biopsy, and he was diagnosed with diffuse large B-cell non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so we found ourselves thrust into doctor's appointments and very aggressive chemotherapy. We were traveling 16 hours from our home to a cancer treatment center that offered newer and maybe more advanced treatment options. And he was doing really well. He was even in line to do a stem cell transplant because they felt that even if it went into remission, that it would probably return in the future. So they wanted to be ready to do a stem cell transplant for him if it did come back. So they harvested like 10 million stem cells from him, from his own bone marrow, because it was still clear. There was no cancer cells in it. And he was doing well. He was doing really good with treatment. We did that for 3 years. And during that 3 years is when the pandemic hit. So during the pandemic, everything went a lot more virtual. And we got a phone call from his doctor after they had done a PET scan. And his doctor says, "Mr. Jones, I've got good news for you. Your cancer is in remission." And so we were ecstatic. We were so excited and so happy. But Dr. Kim says, "Mr. Jones, how have you been feeling? Have you been feeling under the weather at all?" And my husband, he goes, "Well, I think I feel okay, other than maybe a slight head cold or a sinus thing going on. But other than that, I'm feeling okay." And Dr. Kim proceeded to explain that in the PET scan that showed he was in remission, they could also see his lungs. And his lungs had the broken glass pattern concurrent with the virus. So he sent Mitch down to get tested, and the test did come back positive. And we sat in isolation for the next 2 months. At first, we thought, no big deal, we'll get through this. And we were just kind of doing our thing, doing a lot of marathon TV watching, and he started getting worse. And they called it long haulers, is what his doctor referred to it as, because after 2 months, he was still having exaggerated symptoms of the virus. And then he started getting, it started getting really difficult for him to breathe and feel like he was getting enough air, any oxygen. And so I ran him into the emergency room again, and they put him on oxygen there in the hospital. He was actually on the little hose in the nose as well as a CPAP machine at the same time, trying to get enough oxygen into his body. 3 days later, they convinced Mitch that it would be best to go onto a ventilator. They felt it would be controlled, and that they would just put him on the ventilator for a couple of weeks, and then he would be fine. So they gave him paralytics, and then put him on the ventilator. And then a week later, he passed away. Due to his suppressed immune system, they couldn't give him anticoagulants or blood thinners. And so his body proceeded to fill with blood clots throughout his blood system, and actually caused his heart to stop. Anyway, it was pretty devastating. It was a tragic time for me and my kids. My kids both being adults at this point, and my son having a family of his own. Mitch and I had grown up together. We raised our kids together, and now we were grandparents together. So I have 3 grandsons with my son, and we were just completely broken. We didn't see this coming. We had been so optimistic through those years of his cancer treatment, and even when he got COVID, we stayed optimistic, and then all of a sudden, he's gone, and it really broke us. and it threw me into a spiral with my mental health. I was diagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder, and they put me on 2 different medications, one an antidepressant and one an anti-anxiety, and my body didn't do well with those. It caused me to spiral. I would even black out at times and have no memory of anything going on. So they had to wean me off of those. And instead, I did some one-on-one talk therapy, and I did some EMDR, and both of those were very helpful in my healing and getting better. I'm just a work in progress. I'm not 100% or perfect, but I'm different. And that's something that happens on this journey, is that you're not the same person that you used to be. It does change you. There's little pieces of you that are the same, but you do change, and it changes your outlook, and it changes your perspective, and your priorities change, and that's okay. That's okay, because that's just a normal part of being a widow, of being a widower. Grief changes you. Grief is messy. Grief is unpredictable, and sometimes you just need the reassurance that there is hope and that you can find joy again. I've recently remarried, so I'm a newlywed again. We're both midlife, of course. He's just about a year older than me, and I'm 55 now. And so it's been 4.5 years since Mitch passed away. And I'm doing really well. Considering everything that's happened in my life, I'm doing really well, and learning to find joy again, and to not feel the intensity of some of the emotions I have felt, especially in the beginning. I actually sleep some nights all night, and that was something I struggled with for almost 3 years. I struggled with sleeping through the night. I would wake up almost every night after just a couple of hours, and I finally started sleeping again, and that's nice. It feels good to be rested. But anyway, I guess what I'd like to share with you is that you're not alone, and it's okay not to be okay all the time. And I would love to maybe help anybody that I could in any way, and glean from you as well and your experiences. I'd like to hear your stories. If you feel inclined to share with me, I would love to hear your stories, or see pictures, and maybe I'll share some of mine. Like I may have mentioned earlier, I'm new to YouTube, but I would like to maybe facilitate some kind of a community where we could feel safe, and where you can feel safe, I should say, and know that you're heard, and know that you're seen, and feel like you can relate to people that are walking a similar journey. And it could have been just a few weeks, it could be a few months, it could be a few years, but it is truly something that you don't just move on from. You do move forward, but you don't just move on from it, because what you've encountered or what you've experienced has now shaped who you are. And so I would like to find a way that we can be there for each other, I guess is what I'm trying to share, and hopefully we can just move forward together and form some new friendships and bonds with each other. Anyways, thank you so much. I hope to talk to you again soon, and I hope you have a blessed day. Bye.